Ever stop to think why you actually enjoy the feeling of your heart pounding during a movie? Well, today we're pulling back the curtain and dissecting the anatomy of the thriller. We're going to figure out the deliberate craft that makes our minds race and why, deep down, we seem to crave that tension again and again. Let's just kick things off with this number. It's huge. Over $1 billion. That's the global box office for just one movie, 2019's Joker. I mean, that figure alone tells you everything you need to know. The business of suspense is absolutely booming. And look, Joker wasn't some kind of fluke. The biggest thrillers consistently pull in massive crowds all over the world. You look at movies like Inception or Gravity. These aren't just films, they're global events. It's proof that our collective appetite for suspense is just enormous. So what's the secret sauce? What's the formula here? Well, in this explainer, we're going to try and reverse engineer the whole thing. We'll start with that billion-dollar impact, then we'll get into the weeds on the art of anticipation and the master himself, Hitchcock. From there, we'll look at the mind games filmmakers play, our own weird role in all of this, and finally, the big one, why on earth we crave this feeling. Okay, so let's jump right into part one, that billion-dollar thrill. The insane financial success of this genre is no accident. It is tied directly to a filmmaker's ability to create one single powerful experience, pure suspense. But all that box office success is really just a symptom of something way more fundamental. The real engine that drives every single great thriller. It isn't the money, it's not the special effects, it's a very specific and very, very potent human emotion. And that feeling is suspense. At its very core, it's the art of making you, the audience, desperately anxious about what's going to happen next. It's not about the final shock. It's about that agonizing, drawn-out wait for the shock to finally hit. And this right here highlights a super important difference between suspense and its close cousin, horror. In a horror movie like Alien, you're absolutely terrified of the monster you can see. But in a suspense masterpiece like The Thing, the terror comes from not knowing who in the room is the monster. Suspense, you see, weaponizes our uncertainty. So if we really want to understand how that weapon is built and used against us, there's one name you have to know, the guy who basically wrote the rulebook on suspense. To really get his method, we can actually use one of his greatest films, Rear Window, as a kind of blueprint. It perfectly lays out his specific three-part formula for manufacturing anxiety. Okay, first thing Hitchcock does is he ties the suspense directly to morality. So in Rear Window, we're not just watching a potential murder happen. We're constantly asking ourselves, is our hero, Jeff, a righteous observer, or is he just a paranoid creep? That doubt is what creates this deep, nagging tension. His second technique, and this is just genius, is to make us active participants. The hero isn't just passively watching, he becomes an investigator. And because the camera makes us see only what he sees, we become investigators too, trying to piece together the clues right there with him. And finally, after cranking up all that moral and psychological tension until you can barely stand it, Hitchcock gives us an out. He gives us what's called a safety valve. The killer gets caught, all our questions are answered, and a sense of order comes back. It lets us finally exhale. But of course, Hitchcock isn't the only director with tricks up his sleeve. A lot of modern thrillers build on what he started, using all sorts of sophisticated narrative dissection to keep us on our toes. So how do they do it? How do these storytellers so effectively manipulate our whole perception of reality? Well, one of their most powerful weapons is a character who seems totally trustworthy, but is secretly leading us down a completely wrong path. You know it, the unreliable narrator. This is like the classic recipe for deception. Think about a movie like Fight Club. First, the narrator earns our trust. Then he starts misdirecting us, shaping our reality through his own twisted point of view, all while planting these tiny little inconsistencies. And then, bam, the climactic revelation pulls the rug right out from under us, forcing us to rethink everything we just saw. And this gets us to a really crucial point. All these techniques, from Hitchcock's moral games to the unreliable narrator, they're not just happening on the screen. They're designed to mess with us, the viewers, and to manipulate our experience directly. The critic Jonathan Rosenbaum put it perfectly. He said, thrillers force us to confront what we're actually doing. We become armchair analysts of a murder plot, just detached, curious observers of someone else's absolute misery. The genre really does turn the camera back on us. Let's go back to Rear Window for a second because it's the perfect example of this. The neighbors that Jeff is watching across that courtyard, they aren't just characters in a story. They're like mirrors. They reflect all these different life paths, all these different versions of love and loneliness and failure. They represent all the possible futures for the main characters, and by extension, for us who are watching right there with them. So, all of this analysis brings us to the final and, I think, the most fascinating question of all. We've talked about the what and the how, but now we gotta ask why. No, I'm serious. Think about it for a second. Why do we willingly line up, pay good money, to be put into a state of stress and fear and psychological tension for 2 hours straight? What is it about this whole experience that we actually crave? Well, maybe this is the answer. A thriller is a secret indulgence. It's a safe space for us to explore our darkest curiosities. Violence, betrayal, total moral chaos, all without any real-world consequences. It's like a controlled dive into darkness that always lets us walk out of the theater and go back to our normal, orderly lives. So the final question really isn't just about the movie. It's about what that secret indulgence says about you.